It is good to enter into the peace and calm of Shabbat after the week we've had, and it is very good, Robin, to have a simcha and reason to celebrate after a week like we've had. I imagine everyone here will remember where you were when you heard the news of the horrific events on Yonge Street, and you might always reference it. Throughout the years ahead, you might always know, I remember exactly where I was when I heard the news, and I remember exactly how it felt to be so vulnerable, to be exposed, to have an assault on our city, this good and safe city. And I don't know about you, but I received almost immediately a flood of emails, and my Facebook feed was filled with messages from Israel. Because they knew what to do even before I knew what to do. They knew how to reach out immediately and to just ask, how are you? How are your loved ones? Was anyone in your congregation affected? We're thinking of you. We're praying for you. They knew exactly how to reach out and how to articulate what we needed to hear just at that moment in order to find our feet again. And so I turned to a poem written by an Israeli named Rachel Spangenthal, who wrote this after a terror attack in Israel and the day after, when she was walking to work and trying to find her feet again, trying to find her footing, her rhythm, her normal. Here's what she writes. The frost played with my hair on the way to work this morning. Today, unlike most days, I don't feel like playing. And the cold, which normally chills my bones, doesn't reach beyond my skin. Because today I am fire. I am on fire against the senseless hatred. I am burning against the feeling of being unsafe within my own home, against the mixture of prayers for peace and blood. Those two things aren't supposed to mix together. That combination goes against nature, peace and blood. And it goes against miracles. Like oil and water, the two are never supposed to touch. Today I feel freer. I feel fear as I say my prayers about trust. Today I feel urgency as I say my prayers about redemption. Today I do not request God's help. I demand it. And today I show extra love in rebellion of extra violence in the hope that somehow, in some way, love makes a difference. That is the core message of our Torah reading this morning. At the heart of our Torah, in the middle book, in the middle chapter, in the middle verse, we find the precious mitzvah, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The poet says, today I show extra love in rebellion, in the hope that somehow, in some way, it will make a difference after such violence and hatred have been wielded against me and my people. You may have read, as I did, many articles that listed the number of cities that have been assaulted by car rammings. They include London and Paris and Stockholm and Barcelona. But never did I see on the list Jerusalem. And I don't know why this is. I'd like to believe that it's just lazy journalism, that people just cut and pasted the list of the cities and put it in their own article. But I fear it might be something else. I fear it might be a way of saying what happens in Israel, the hatred and violence and terror there, is somehow different than everywhere else in the world. And over there, it is normal. That in Israel, hatred and violence is somehow justifiable. But they are neither normal nor justifiable. There is nothing normal about a human being getting into a van and mowing down other human beings. There is nothing normal about a human being choosing death over life. It is abnormal. In fact, it is strange, it is foreign to us, and it should always remain foreign to us. God forbid such horror should ever become normalized anywhere in the world. It is neither logical nor acceptable for a person to be filled with so much rage that they would cut off the breath of the innocent, the decent, whose only mistake was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I know I speak for everyone when I say we want none of it, and neither do our Israeli brothers and sisters. I'll share with you one note of solidarity that came to me, but it's really intended for the entire congregation. Dear partners and friends, on behalf of the Israel Movement for Reform and Progressive Judaism, the board, the staff, and congregations, we hereby express our deepest sorrow and condolences following the devastating car ramming attack in Toronto. We are shocked and horrified by this senseless act of violence and the loss of innocent lives. This ongoing trend of violence is deeply troubling, and we have confidence that you, as community leaders, will confront these acts of terror with defiance and hope. As we continue facing violence and hatred around the world, we are strengthened by knowing that we stand together in solidarity with you. We pray for the safety and security of you and your community in Toronto. Yours in solidarity, Rabbi Gilad Kariv, President and CEO of the Israel Movement for Progressive Judaism, and Reuven Marco, its chair. The words, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself, are comforting for me this Shabbat. It is, according to Rabbi Akiva, the greatest principle of all of the Torah. The entire Torah was constructed around this mitzvah. It is at the heart of who we are, what we must do, and what we must model for all of the world. How do we understand these words, then, in light of this week's horror on Yonge Street? I don't believe for a minute that God determines who walks down the sidewalk at Yonge and Finch, or that God determines who stays home sick that day, or decides who will go out for lunch on a sun-filled afternoon, as it was on Monday, or who decides instead to eat at their desk. And I don't believe for a minute either that God chooses who will be enraged enough and hateful enough to rent a van and mow down innocent people in the streets. So where do we find God this week then? Ani Adonai, it says again and again in the Holiness Code. I am the eternal your God. Know me, God says. Know me through your deeds of goodness. See me in your actions of courage and compassion, fairness and generosity. So we find God in the living responses. God is called Hatov v'Hametiv. God is the good and the one who does good. And so we see God in that courageous police officer who held his fire. And we see God in the first responders who are trained to put themselves in harm's way in order to protect and to save others. And we see God in the ordinary folks like you and me too, who somehow, without any formal training, were still courageous enough to stand by, to offer CPR as best they could, to revive total strangers. We see God in the good people that knew not what to do other than to simply hold the hands of the injured, to stay by their sides and offer them encouraging words until professional help would come. And we can see God in the hundreds who have come by to lay down flowers and carefully scripted notes of compassion. And we see God in the donors who have given hundreds of thousands of dollars in the first 2 days alone, including thousands for the GoFundMe campaign established to support a 7-year-old orphan whose single mother was among the Young Street victims. God bless him. And we will see God tomorrow night in the hundreds, if not thousands, who are expected to gather at Mel Lastman Square at 7 o'clock in the evening for an interfaith vigil which is organized by the city. I hope I see you there. I hope I see the Jewish community there in big numbers, because we care about this city and we should show it. We know we are blessed with a good life in this city, and so we need to be there to be counted among the citizens of this city. I've been asked to say a few words there tomorrow night on behalf of the Jewish community, and to be honest, I have no idea what to say. Not yet. Because we have been shaken. And when we are shaken, silence is best. Where do we find confidence? Where do we find a sense of calm and security again? In Psalm 112, which describes an ideal human being, someone who knows who he is, who walks upright through the world, even during the hardest times. The psalmist describes the character of such a person. The psalmist observes a person's behavior. How does he live in a way that shows he has this strong moral code, that he's not easily rattled? Even when the unexpected hardships come, he can withstand them because he knows who he is and he understands his place in God's world. Psalm 112. Ashrei ish yareh et Adonai b'mitzvotav chafetz me'od. Contented is the one who shows reverence before God and delights in service. Gibor ba'aretz yehezaro, dor yesharim yevorach. His descendants shall be courageous on earth, an upright generation to be blessed. Hon va'osher beveto v'tzidkato omeret la'ad. True wealth and real riches are found in her home. Her righteousness endures forever. Zarach b'choshech or layesharim chanun rachum v'tzadik. A light shines in the darkness for the upright. For she is gracious and he is compassionate and she is just. Tov ish chonenu maveh yechalkel dvarav b'mishpat. A good person like this lends himself and extends himself generously and conducts her business fairly and with honesty. Ki le'olam lo yimot, lezecher olam yiyeh tzadik. A person who lives in this way shall never be shaken, for the righteous are remembered forever. I wonder if the same is true about a city. I wonder if a city takes on a character of righteousness and then can be confident and secure, can withstand tremors of terror when they strike, Can we rewrite the psalm to personify the ideal city? And would we recognize our own city of Toronto in the words? Let's play it out and see. Contented is the city that shows reverence before God. Contented is the city that delights in service for one another. The descendants of this city shall be among the most courageous of the earth, an upright generation to be blessed. True wealth and real riches are found in the homes across such a city, in her low-income apartments by the subway lines, and in towers made of glass and steel along the harbor, and yes, in her stone mansions among the trees, too. The righteous of this city knows no bounds. It has become a beacon of light, shining in the darkness for the upright of the world to behold. This city is generous and compassionate and just. A good city such as this lends and extends itself generously to newcomers who come from beyond its borders. This city is known for conducting business, both small and large, daily with fairness and with honesty. A city such as this shall never be shaken, and the righteous will be remembered forever. What does it mean to be a righteous city? It means we also know who we are, what we stand for, and what we will not stand for. It means our diversity is our pride, and our peaceful ways our joy. We do not take this city for granted. I know that. We count ourselves among the most fortunate on the planet today. We are the lucky ones to call Toronto home. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor who is just like you. A most surprising example of this week, you may have read about it. In the cities of Berlin and in other German towns, 2,000 protesters of all faiths put on kippot and took to the streets to say, "Not here. We will not stand for anti-Semitism." In 2017, it's recorded that there are 4 anti-Semitic acts in Germany every single day. And it's growing. Sweeping across Europe, it is growing. And so when a leader of the Jewish community, the German Jewish community, advised Jews, wear your kippot at home and then put them in your pocket when you go outside, that was an embarrassment to the people of Germany. That was an embarrassment to Chancellor Merkel. When there was an attack on a 19-year-old Syrian asylum seeker, when there was it is heartbreaking. In last week's attack, one of the victims of anti-Semitism was a 21-year-old Arab Israeli who put on a kippah in show of solidarity with his Jewish friends. And he was beaten, and he was called by an Arab Jew. And friends, I arrived this morning to the news that our own sanctuary was vandalized last night. You can see the damage covered up over there, 2 stained glass windows, each one carrying images of Torah, a love of Torah and mitzvot, a commitment to uphold the covenant, na'aseh v'nishma, the words say, we will do these mitzvot and we will understand these mitzvot. We can only understand this act as a hate crime. It's been reported. The police will investigate. So we must turn for courage to see the good people of those German cities who put on kippot and said, "Not here." We know we also live in a city which is welcoming of Jews. When these stained glass windows went in, when this incredible building went up in 1937-38, we were saying loudly and clearly to a city, to a world where anti-Semitism was the norm, we said, we are not afraid. We said, we will live out Torah and we will live out mitzvot unafraid, secure in who we are, to whom we belong, what we stand for and what we will not stand for. And so we will not be shaken. We might not even mention this to the world outside. This can be just our little secret. We'll see. However we are advised by the police, that's what we'll do. But it could be that we won't make it known because we don't want to give any attention to a coward who has such hate in his heart or her heart. And so today, good people, we join together in solidarity with one another and with the good people of this city, our friends and our neighbors, our co-workers, our leaders who are calling for this interfaith vigil tomorrow night. And we join once more in prayer. Let me share with you the prayer for protection, which we say every evening as the shadows fall. When the world becomes dark and we might otherwise grow fearful, we say, Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom. Grant that we may lie down in peace each night, Adonai our God, and raise us up each morning to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, O God, and for your name's sake be our help. Shield us from hatred and plague. Keep us safe from war and famine and anguish. Subdue our own hateful impulse to evil. O God, our guardian and helper, our gracious and merciful sovereign, give us refuge each day in the shadow of your wings. Guard us in our comings and our goings, that now and always we may have only life and only peace. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu. Praised are you, O God, whose shelter of peace is spread out over us, over the holy city of Jerusalem, and may it be extended to all the world. And together we say,